Welcome to Potty, a deep dive into decoding AI hallucinations.
All right, so today we're diving deep into the world of AI hallucinations. You know, those times when chatbots spit out stuff that's totally made up but sounds super convincing. We'll cover three key stories based on solid research. First, how imbalances in training data might be fueling these hallucinations. Second, the exciting breakthrough from Tsinghua University on identifying specific neurons linked to them. And third, some actual data on hallucination rates in popular models like GPT-3, Pine5, and GPT-4. It's fascinating stuff that could change how we think about building safer AI. And Jordan, I'm curious what you make of all this as we go along. Let me think. We'll start with the causes and build from there to keep it flowing naturally.
Wow, that sounds really intriguing, Sam. I'm totally on board, especially since I've heard bits about AI going off the rails, but I want to make sure we stick to what the sources actually say without any guesswork. So, let's kick off with that first story on training data imbalances. I remember reading about how LLMs can generate fluent but wrong info, and it makes me wonder if that's tied directly to how they're trained. Wait, hold on. Can you explain what the sources specifically say about this? Like from that ARC-V paper you mentioned? Oh, and that's actually really interesting because if training data is the root cause, it could mean some pretty big changes for AI development.
Absolutely, Jordan. And yeah, let's keep it grounded in the facts from the sources. So, from what I was reading in that ARC-V paper on hallucination detection, large language models often produce content that's fluent and coherent but factually incorrect, and it seems like this could stem from issues in the training data itself, like imbalances that make the model prioritize certain patterns over accuracy. For instance, the paper suggests that LLMs might be overfitting to fluent responses during training, which rewards sounding good even if it's not quite right, and that's based on their analysis of how these models behave under different conditions. Let me think about how to put this simply. It's like if you train a dog to perform tricks by always rewarding energetic moves, it might start doing flips when you just want it to sit, you know? That could explain why hallucinations happen, and it's wild to consider how tweaking training processes might help mitigate that without inventing solutions not in the sources.
Wait, seriously? So, if the training data has these imbalances, does that mean the AI is basically learning to be convincingly wrong on purpose? That's fascinating, and it ties into what you said about rewarding fluency. I was going to say that reminds me of how humans can bull our way through a conversation with confidence, even if we're mistaken. But sticking to the sources, like that paper from Kong Lin on AI errors, it talks about computational social science angles, which makes me think this isn't just a tech problem, but something with broader implications. Okay, that's actually really eye-opening. How do researchers suggest we even start addressing these imbalances in practice?
Exactly, Jordan. And you're right to bring that up. It's not just about the tech, but how it affects real world use. From the sources like the ArcSive summary, they don't spell out exact fixes, but they imply that understanding these data imbalances is key to improving model reliability, perhaps by curating better data sets or refining training methods to emphasize factual accuracy. I mean, it's like fine tuning a recipe. If your ingredients are off, the dish won't taste right, you know? Oh, that's actually fascinating because in the Tsinghua related research, they touch on how these issues persist even after alignment efforts. So it's a persistent challenge. All right, let's pivot to our second story now. Since we've dug into this one pretty deeply, it'll lead us nicely into the H-neurons discovery.
Yeah, that makes sense as a follow-up. I'm still wrapping my head around the training part, but H-neurons sound like the next level, almost like pinpointing the exact bad actors in the AI's brain.
From what I recall in that Reddit post and the Medium article by Barabe, Tsinghua researchers identified these neurons that are linked to hallucinations, and they survive alignment processes unchanged, which is pretty concerning.
Wait, hold on. Can you break that down for me?
Like, how did they even find these H neurons based on the sources, and what does it mean for fixing AI in the long run?
Oh, that's wild because if they're architectural, it might require a total redesign, not just tweaks.
You're spot on there, Jordan. It's a groundbreaking find from Tsinghua, as detailed in their ArcSive paper and that Medium post. Basically, they analyzed the neural networks to identify specific neurons, called H neurons, that activate during hallucinatory responses. And from what Barabe's article summarizes, this involves examining the model's internal activations to see patterns that lead to fabricated info. Let me think about an analogy. It's like finding the specific wires in a circuit that cause a short, so you can trace the problem back to its source. The sources emphasize that these neurons persist even after alignment, meaning the fix might need to be at the architectural level, as mentioned in the Reddit discussion, which is a big deal for making AI more trustworthy. And that's genuinely intriguing because it shifts our focus from just data to the very structure of these models.
No way. That's exactly what I was afraid of. It's not something you can just patch with an update.
So if H-neurons are the culprits, as per the LinkedIn post and that other Tsinghua research, does that mean every AI company has to rethink their designs from the ground up? I was gonna say that could slow down progress, but it's probably worth it for safer tech, like in fields where accuracy is life or death.
Oh, that's actually really interesting. How might this impact things moving forward based on what the sources say?
I never thought of AI neurons in such a literal way before.
Totally, and it's a valid concern, Jordan. The sources don't provide a clear roadmap, but they highlight that understanding H neurons is a step toward more robust solutions, as seen in the December 2025 paper. For example, the researchers suggest that since these neurons aren't easily altered, future architectures might need to incorporate mechanisms to suppress them, which could lead to better performing models overall. It's like upgrading from a faulty engine to a whole new design, you know? That could have ripple effects in areas like journalism or communication, as mentioned in Conglin's work, making AI outputs more reliable.
All right, we've covered that pretty thoroughly. So let's wrap up with our third story on actual hallucination rates to tie it all together.
Sounds good, Sam. I'm eager to get to the numbers because that's where it gets concrete.
From the sources, like that PubMed study and the Vectara leaderboard, we have real data on models like GPT 3.5 and GPT 4, with precision rates that give us a sense of how often they hallucinate.
Wait, hold on. I think the PubMed one mentioned 9.4% for GPT 3.5, but another source like the AI Business article talks about a 3.5% hallucination rate for GPT 3.5 Turbo, which is confusing but important to clarify.
So based on that, how do these rates compare across models, and what does it say about the training we discussed earlier?
Oh, that's wild, because if GPT-4 has a higher rate in some tests, it challenges the idea that newer models are always better.
You're right to point that out, Jordan. Let's stick to the facts from the sources to avoid any confusion.
According to the PubMed study, GPT 3.5 had a precision rate of 9.4%, which relates to its accuracy and implies a certain level of hallucinations, while GPT 4 showed 13.4%. And from the AI Business report, GPT 3.5 Turbo actually had a low 3.5% hallucination rate in specific tests. The Vectara leaderboard and Springer chapter provide comparative analyses showing that these rates vary by context, like in document summarization or general QA, and it's likely tied back to those training imbalances we talked about. Think of it as a car with varying fuel efficiency. Some models handle factual queries better than others, and that's based on empirical data from these studies.
Overall, it's a reminder that while progress is being made, hallucinations are still a hurdle, especially as seen in the Facebook group discussions.
That's genuinely eye-opening, Sam. So even with improvements, we're not out of the woods yet, and it circles back to how training processes reward fluent responses over accuracy.
I mean, if GPT-4 has a higher rate in some cases, it makes me question the hype around new releases, like that Reddit post on GPT 4.5's issues, though we should only go by what's confirmed.
Wait, that's actually hilarious in a way. AI hallucinating about its own capabilities, but seriously, what can users do in the meantime to spot these problems?
Oh, and to wrap this up, I think we've covered a lot of ground here.
Exactly, Jordan. And it's all about being cautious consumers of AI tech. The sources don't give specific user tips, but they underscore the importance of fact-checking outputs, especially with these known rates. In summary, we've explored how training data imbalances contribute to hallucinations, the identification of H-neurons as a key insight from Tsinghua, and the real-world rates that show we're making progress, but still have work to do. It's been a thoughtful discussion, and I appreciate your questions. They really helped unpack this. So thanks for joining us, and we'll catch you next time for more deep dives into AI's evolving world.
Yeah, absolutely, Sam. That was super engaging, and I learned a ton about the nitty-gritty of AI hallucinations without any made-up stuff. Looking forward to the next one. Stay curious, everyone. Oh, and if you're listening, check out those sources for yourself to see the details.